Everybody always asks what are your top 5 to 10 animes, but never what are the worst ones you've watched. I gave you my top 10 animes, now I'm back to give you my top 10 worst animes I have watched. If you haven't watched my top 10 anime video, make sure to go check it out. The link is in the description. This list definitely includes animes that you probably enjoyed, because I have talked about them before on various Instagrams and TikToks. Make sure you do go follow those for more anime content. And I have gotten questions as to why I don't like them. I'm usually extremely nice when it comes to rating animes, and still thus far I've not dropped a single anime with over 200 entries on my anime list. I definitely have had some bad experiences watching some of them, and I've contemplated dropping some of these, but I've stuck through with them. Looking back, I should have dropped a couple of them by now. Before I do get into this video, drop some of the worst animes that you have watched in the comments down below. And as usual, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see what I rate various animes, you can go check out my anime list page. It's in the description. It might not be entirely accurate because I feel like I do need to go back and re-rate some of these, but you can see what I generally think about them. At the number 10 spot for worst animes I've ever watched, it starts off with The Faraway Paladin. Faraway Paladin starts off promising, with a guy getting isekai'd into a magical world after living a stagnant life in his previous world. You follow a man called William G. Merryblood, who is named after the 3 people who raised him to become the man he is now in this new world. Their names are Blood, a giant skeleton warrior, Mary, a mummy who used magic, and Augustus, a mage. Those 3 characters seal away the High King and became undead so that they could defend the seal. This anime does start off strong, but once William leaves his hometown, it's better to call it ruins here because that's what it really is. I feel like the anime dipped very hard in quality. I just really felt like William was not a good character at all. The story was pretty mediocre once they left the ruins. I just really didn't care for the other characters introduced. I really do feel like the fight scenes should have been better, especially since, like most isekais, the MC, in this case William, is overpowered. They definitely should be showcasing just how strong he actually is. Right now, I give The Faraway Paladin a 3 out of 10. It is getting another season, however, so The Faraway Paladin definitely has the potential to make its way out of my top 10. I do plan on actually watching the second season, but for now, I'm going to leave it in my top 10 worst animes at number 10. The 9th worst anime I've watched is The Dungeon of Black Company. Yet another anime that started off strong. If you watch Combatants Will Be Dispatched, it feels very similar to that. Both MCs feel eerily similar to one another, while the general humor and vibes of the show feel exactly the same. In The Dungeon of Black Company, you follow Kenji Nanomiya, who worked toward achieving his goal of self-sustainable NEET lifestyle. Being a NEET means he's not employed in education or training, for those who don't know. Essentially, he just wants to be lazy and make money passively. Just like The Faraway Paladin, The Dungeon of Black Company starts off strong. Kenji is brought to another world and basically has to work himself to death just to make ends meet. So obviously he tries his best to find the quickest and easiest way to become a NEET in this new world. The beginning was definitely hilarious and made me want to watch the next episode immediately. From the midway point onwards, it turned into this boring, unfunny corporate anime where he was just finding a way to outsmart a large corporation and take it over. It dipped so hard in quality, and for whatever reason didn't try to crack any jokes for the rest of the anime, and for that reason I just have to give it a 3 out of 10, and it's in the number 9 spot. The 8th worst anime I've watched is How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift? The anime is exactly how it sounds. It's about a couple of girls who just want to work out. They get more toned and stronger throughout the anime. Hibiki and Akemi join a super gym and are taught by a guy in a tracksuit who is deceptively huge. Besides a few laughs here and there, I felt like it was very repetitive. They recycle the same joke of the Jack trainer ripping off his clothes every episode to the point where I was annoyed. It is a decent show if you want to learn some exercises to do at home while watching an anime actually, but I just didn't really enjoy it. As a side note, I am pretty fat right now, so I really should be doing some of these exercises. Is this anime terrible? Probably not for some people. I just didn't really enjoy it. Other people might, however. For me, How Heavy the Dumbbells You Lift is a 3 out of 10 anime. One thing that I thought was really cool about the show was that this show and Kengan Ashura take place in the same universe. Yes, the ruthless fighting anime Kengan Ashura. Go check it out if you don't believe me. It's kind of interesting at least. The 7th worst anime I've watched is In Another World with My Smartphone, which is a very recent addition. This anime is the only anime here where I didn't really have a bad experience watching it, unlike the others. The anime is just not very good. I really felt like nothing happened story-wise with the anime. Everything in the show is extremely basic, characters are very shallow and fairly boring, the fight scenes were mediocre at best, and there was little to no story until the very end. That being said, I did finish this anime in one day. I have no clue why I did, but somehow it entranced me without being very good. It does have some positives, mainly being that the storyline started within the last 2 episodes. It seemed kind of interesting actually. I'm interested in how Toya, the main character, will find the rest of the Flying City Babylon and put it back together. I also kind of liked how overpowered Toya was and how he could find fairly unique ways to use his powers. In Another World with My Smartphone is getting another season, so this is yet another anime that could definitely make its way out of my top 10 worst animes. But for now, In Another World with My Smartphone is a 2.5 out of 10. The 6th worst anime I have watched is Magical Spec-ops girl Asuka. This anime is about a magical girl, Asuka, who's trying to return to a normal life after fighting in a war against Dices. Dices are interdimensional beings who are trying to destroy everything on Earth. They can only be killed by magical girls who were gifted their powers from the spirit realm. Sounds at least fairly interesting, right? After defeating the Dices, a new threat has emerged, making Asuka as well as some surviving magical girls come out of retirement. This new villain is essentially making knockoff magical girls with powers. The show had several promising things throughout, such as some of the action sequences and some gory scenes. I feel like when the show went really dark, it shined the most. Was it amazing, those scenes? No. But it was at least solid. Most of the anime is built up to at least reveal the villain, but they never do. The more I write this script, the more I feel like I should rewatch it to see if it actually belongs in my top 10 worst animes watched. The entire show is pretty forgettable, however, so I do feel like it belongs for now, and for me it was a 2.5 out of 10, making it number 6. Finally, into the top 5 worst animes, at number 5 is Super Crooks. It's a Netflix anime that focuses on the bad guys. You follow Johnny Bolt, who has electrical-based powers and uses them for evil purposes, but ultimately he's just a loser like almost every other villain in the world. Almost every single villain has a superpower, with most of them being pretty crappy compared to the heroes. The first 2 episodes were okay, but after that, I felt like the show was not reaching the potential that it had. They should have been showing off the powers a little bit more and just made the overall show more interesting. Most of the time, I was just extremely bored watching it. The characters felt extremely basic, as did the plot. I haven't watched The Boys, but one of my friends has, and he said that it seems like Netflix was kind of trying to capitalize on The Boys' success. From the little I know about The Boys, it definitely felt similar. I give Super Crooks a 2 out of 10. Coming in at the 4th worst anime I have watched is Mieruko-Chan. I was fairly excited when this anime was about to come out because I wanted a decent horror anime to watch. For those who don't know about the show, it is about a girl named Miko who can see monsters that basically nobody can see. She decides that she will not acknowledge their existence so that they do not attack and kill her. Throughout the show, she runs into a plethora of different monsters trying to evoke a reaction out of her, with a couple specters being successful. I do think the designs of the monsters throughout the show was good, but that was about it. I felt like each episode and every encounter with a monster was the exact same thing. First she would stumble into them, then crap her pants. Sometimes the specter would purposely try to evoke a reaction, other times not. The encounters always felt that they were dragged on for far too long. Mieruko-Chan showed some promise towards the end, but overall the show was just horrendous and is a 2 out of 10 for me. Next up, probably the most controversial anime on this list. I know people are going to come at me in the comments for it. The 3rd worst anime for me has been Deadman Wonderland. Now, hear me out, because whenever I said this, people were like, oh, come on, it's not that bad. Yeah, it is. You were either rating the anime purely off of what you read from the manga, or you are rating it based off of the potential that it had. I will agree that my rating might be a bit harsh, but it's my rating, not yours. The first episode was solid. Beyond that, the show was not good. It felt super rushed, the fight scene should have been better, and Ganta was downright insufferable. All he does is complain constantly. The story is there, but they basically do nothing with it. There's no hint as to why Ganta was specifically targeted, if there's even a reason. Pacing is extremely weird. It goes from being in jail, to a random death race, to underground fights, to escaping, and feeling extremely rushed the entire time. It would have been better if the show was longer, so I didn't feel like they were speedrunning the show. I don't know what happens in the manga at all, but I do remember hearing people say they skipped a couple of things that would have probably helped out. I would much prefer it if they redid the entire anime from scratch and do it correctly. Deadman Wonderland was one of the first shows I watched when I first started watching anime, and it's definitely among one of the worst. I give it a 2 out of 10. Bonus time! I'm giving you a bonus anime in my top 10 worst animes ever. This anime would be on the list if the first season wasn't so good. So technically, it's the 3rd worst anime I have ever watched if you're just going off of season 2 alone. I'm guessing you could probably guess the anime by now. It's The Promised Neverland season 2. I have zero clue what they were thinking with season 2. It was going to be difficult to be as entertaining as the first season because you were losing the mom versus kid dynamic since the kids ran away. But season 2 was downright dreadful. Ray, who was arguably the best character in Season 1, became a side character in Season 2. He never made any choices and basically was never included in dialogues. Norman should be dead. I understand people want him alive because he was a great character, but he served his purpose, and giving him plot armor to keep him alive is just bad writing. I haven't read the manga, so if he's alive there too, what I said applies there as well. The anime was just completely boring too. There were things going on, but I literally could not care less. Promised Neverland Season 1 hyped up the Demon King a bit, and then proceeded to never show him in Season 2. The ending was lackluster, with the last couple of minutes being a stupid slideshow. Everyone included with the production of The Promised Neverland Season 2 should never have a job in the anime industry again. I also heard they skipped a really good arc for no reason. I have no clue why they decided to rush the anime and also do it so poorly. It could have been a very solid anime to watch at the very least, but now whenever I hear The Promised Neverland, all I can think of is disappointment. One of 3 anime seasons I have given a 1 out of 10. It's better to think the show ended at Season 1 with a much more open ending. The second worst anime I've watched is The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. The entire time I was watching, I was expecting there to be something that happened that was interesting. The main character, Sai, spent the entire time trying to figure out her power just to find out it's the power of love, which is just annoying. I usually wouldn't care about that, but the entire show was boring with what felt like absolutely nothing happening the entire season. Every single character in the show was as entertaining as watching paint dry, and similarly, the story as well. With that being said, I probably would recommend this anime to people who want something like it. I personally didn't enjoy this. Just because I didn't enjoy this one doesn't mean others won't. It's definitely a weird anime, and I felt like it just wasn't for me. It does have a second season confirmed, which I'm not planning on watching unless I hear good things about it. The Saint's Magic Power Omnipotent, I gave a 1 out of 10. The worst anime I've ever watched is Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. I was not expecting this show to be the next My Dress Up Darling like others thought, because I had not watched Dress Up Darling up until that point. But I have now. I was just hoping for it to be solid. I'll start off by saying the 2 MCs, Yu and Shikimori, are both horrible. The constant bad luck that Yu experiences is insufferable. Yu is legitimately one of the most boring characters I've ever witnessed. He does nothing good and basically never contributes to the show. Shikimori isn't even the best character in a show named after her. She isn't even a top 5 girl in the show. Both Shikimori and Yu's moms are better than her. Both of her friends Hachimitsu and Nekozaki are better. And the best girl in the show overall is Kamiya. If the show actually focused on Kamiya instead of Shikimori, it would have been better. Not by much, but definitely better. The anime tries to show how great Shikimori is, but I just don't see anything special with her. I really felt like most of the time when she did something amazing, either somebody else could have done it or did do it in the show already. Most of the time when she was beating people in a specific event, she was just catching them off guard. Some of the characters just thought she wasn't that good and weren't giving it their all themselves. Kamiya is also very good at volleyball and basketball. Nekozaki and Inuyasha also helped a bunch with the relay race, showcasing their athleticism. Hell, Hachimitsu was somehow the only person who could do the ball throwing competition, and she's the definition of unathletic. The other thing about Shikimori that's overrated is that she's really nice and inspires people. She's not the only one that does. Her whole friend group actually does throughout the anime. Her entire friend group did so as evident in the sports festival. I felt like Yu did a much better job of inspiring and cheering people on throughout the anime than her. I hated this show from the first episode and basically continued hate watching it throughout the season. Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie is the worst anime I've watched, and I give it a 1 out of 10. What do you guys think of this video? What are some of the worst animes you have ever watched? Tell me if you think I'm wrong with any of these animes in the comments. Give me your reasoning as to why. I'd love to hear why I am wrong. And I'll see you guys in the next video.